Well, let's start out with a question from our online caller, Claire, who asked, how soon is it okay to plan a vacation with a new boyfriend? And what advice should I keep in mind for that first trip away together?
Good question. Well, do you have a gut reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I love this one because I recently started a relationship and traveled very early, traveled.
Like how soon?
Oh, gosh, how soon was it? I think it was probably... maybe it was about 2 months in to the relationship. I went away for a weekend, and it was too soon. I kind of had the same question, and at the same time, I love traveling, and part of one of my goals in a relationship was to have somebody I could travel with. That was one of the things I wanted. So I just decided to go for it.
Great.
Yeah. So in my mind, it's always okay, and it's going to bring up other issues. It's going to tease things up. I was traveling when I did not yet have we weren't yet exclusive with each other. That's a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't mean there's a hard and fast rule that you can't travel with someone that in that kind of case. So.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm in agreement. I wouldn't hold that there's a magical time frame after which it's okay to travel and before which it's not. I've considered it at as early as a week.
Yeah.
I didn't wind up triggering that particular thing. I think the first significant travel I've ever had in a relationship probably came at about the 3-month mark. And what I remember about myself on that trip is the amount of kind of dreamy space I inhabited as I was with my guy at that time in this new place, finding myself going, oh, I'd like to live on a farm someday. Oh, I'd like to live on a farm someday. And, it was kind of a first experience of talking about what sort of life we might each like to have and whether that meshes together. But apart from our day-to-day in a way that was useful, but also sort of disturbing and fantasy oriented.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's it's a pro and con of travel early on with someone. The pro is we're going to be in this exciting environment where things are lovely and exciting. And, we've talked before about, the brain loves novelty. Peaceful, novel, not stressful, and that's makes for a very exciting date without having to necessarily create it from the conversation, which is also a con of it. It's this artificial, this is the way things are between us, or maybe this is the way things are because we're in a brand new city with each other having this exciting experience, and don't really see what it would be like in the day-to-day life of, this is what I think about and worry about during the day, and this is what you think about, and how do we negotiate those things and make meaning and meaningful conversation?
Yeah. Well, I have 2 counterpoints that are almost both they're opposite of each other, and on the other end from what you were saying. I have experienced travel times, with a significant other to be just this very fruitful kind of stepping back. What's my vision for my life? What am I satisfied with and dissatisfied with that? That's another feature of a relationship I want to have is I want someone who can support me in those big questions, and having that time apart to do it was sort of a first opportunity for those things to come up. But now the opposite of that is some of the highlights for me in traveling have been that, and have also been things like I notice how my guy is interacting with everyone we come across. I remember looking out of a hotel lobby window, seeing him near our car, chatting with somebody and being like, I love that dude. I love the way he's being, and having it be one of those sort of oddly crystallizing moments. Now, I think I was, what I wish I'd done with that is sort of go, no, why haven't I had that moment like before in these 3 months we've had together? What is it about our life back here in Chicago that doesn't lend itself to me seeing him interacting with people in ways that I love and appreciate?
Yeah.
It should have sort of scared me in a way that was the first time I'd sort of seen that level of decency or something like that. I wish I'd have taken it back.
Yeah. And what I think is what was different in your mindset and, inside you, not with him necessarily, but with you that was brought brought up by travel. And I think it's just, I noticed that in myself, that it's like I have this fantasy about travel, as it's like, it's this beautiful, wonderful thing. And it is fun.
Absolutely.
And I do, like it and enjoy it. I was at a networking event on Monday and asked a few people this question, if you had a magic wand and could do anything, what would it be?
I like that.
And the majority of them said, I'd quit my job and travel. And there's something to me that's sad about it. That's like, I would leave my life that I've created as it is, and I'd go sort of away and do this other thing that's not so grounded in reality. And I want to have both, a life that matters to me and is meaningful to me and I enjoy as it is.
Yep.
And that travel is just sort of like the icing on it, not an escape. And
Right. It has a purpose of recreation in the sense of creating yourself anew and renewal for whatever is the work of your life.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people hold it that way.
Yeah.
I think from that perspective, when we go on spiritual travel as a Right Foundation group, we kind of joke that what we do on those trips in terms of personal development, we could do anywhere. We could get in a bus and go around the block and have that level of sort of deep interaction with one another, with ourselves, with, truth, beauty, all the big things you think about when you sort of go and take that time away. But really that essence, that way of living is available everywhere. And I think about that in reference to what you're saying. And I also think about it in terms of like what I think I've learned about a person from travel, from the big stuff traveling. I could have just as easily learned and have learned in some ways from a trip to Whole Foods or how we took the bus together here in town. There are just, as you said, it's not, I don't want to need to travel in order to know what I know or to live the life I love. It's something different.
Well, I think this is beautiful, and it's sort of the second half of this question was, what advice should I keep in mind for this first trip away together? And we're we're not talking about the concrete, like this is what you do or don't do to get along. I think my sort of any nugget of advice I'd give for it is really around using travel to learn more about each other and to sort of like have that experience that's going to inform the relationship, and also about bringing that what you learn and the space that you create back into the relationship at home and in the day-to-day, so that it's so that moment when you see him interacting with someone, you can have that or feel that or say, what is that when you are at Whole Foods?
If you use it to point you toward your yearnings and to be in the inquiry of what elements do I want in my life to recreate whatever about this was so satisfying. I think the other, I guess, more point of advice I would say is travel is a huge exercise in being in touch with what you want generally. If you look at a day unplanned in travel, like it's all your creation, unless you've picked some tour and you've paid $1,500 for someone else to lead you around. You have to create it. And so I find, whenever I'm traveling with another human being, whatever kind of relationship we have, I feel most challenged to just say what I want in a given moment, especially if what I want is something different from what he or she wants, and even more especially if what I want is to not be with them at that moment. And I think that's really difficult for people who are traveling, in order to travel with somebody special, is to just say, what, I need time to myself. There are things I want to do that you don't want to do on this trip. It would be okay for us to each have our separate adventures for 2 hours, or I'll do the errands while you do the piece of work you need to do. That it's okay to go apart and come back together. That the real exercise is how you work that out. And how you kind of keep clearing yourself in the moment when you feel scared to say what you want. And to not think like the measure of a relationship is how well we do when we're stuck in the same car together for 16 hours or same hotel room or whatever. But you just keep to know that your individual needs for separation
Yeah.
To talk about it in terms of that we both have the desires for closeness and the desire for individuation.
Yeah.
That doesn't change when you leave home.
Yeah.
And I think people don't honor that enough, that I still have the need to, have an hour to myself and just be with my own thoughts and feelings
Oh, wow.
and who I am.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
just no, it's great actually. It's bringing up, I've got a trip planned as with this new guy
Same guy.
in August, and I'm thinking about it in terms of that and realizing it has been a challenge for me, even when I've traveled with girlfriends in the past.
Absolutely.
And I've that feeling. What got me was that 16 hours in a car. I mean, I literally had 3 days on a bus with a friend, and came away from it thinking like, God, I would never want to marry someone like you. But really, 3 days on a bus with anybody is a pretty big challenge.
There's challenges. Yeah.
So there's a different lens rather than like, these are the sort of the horrible things about us that don't work. More of like, I'm hitting a limit where I'd like some time to myself now.
Right.
We probably both are.
Right.
Let's reconvene.
I mean, I just had one like this where I traveled with a friend and we sat down by the pool with books in hand, and all of a sudden she wanted to just download on the whole day we'd had, and I kind of had to go, I want this to just be the reading quietly time. We'll have a car ride together later. Can we talk then? And it was sort of, we had we had a difference of opinion on that, clearly. And there was a little bit of a flash and then oh, okay, got it, cool. And you move on. But better that than me just, playing along, answering the questions, and then resenting that I didn't get my 3 chapters read or something like that, or didn't just get to
get your you time,
go away a little bit, and then come back to the relationship and the fun or whatever it was. So.
Yeah. Well, great.
Yeah.